Alright folks, so what I've done for this video is compiled a list of the 10 most common questions that I get about HF antennas from new ham radio operators. Let's go ahead and get started. Okay, question number 1. What is the best HF antenna for a new ham radio operator? And I chose to talk about dipole antennas. For a new ham radio operator, the dipole antenna is often the most accessible and effective choice. Its simplicity and proving performance on HF bands make it ideal for beginners. Building one offers practical experience and insight into how antennas work. However, there isn't a one-size-fits-all answer. Your operating goals, physical space, and budget are important factors. If you live in an apartment, for instance, an indoor magnetic loop may serve you better than a full-size dipole. Those with space constraints may explore vertical or end-fed antennas, which offer compactness and decent performance. The key is to start simple, learn the basics, and evolve your station as your knowledge and resources grow. Great electronics start with great PCBs, and that starts with PCBWay.com. With industry-leading quality, competitive pricing, and fast global delivery, PCBWay.com is the trusted partner for makers, engineers, and innovators worldwide. Whether you're prototyping or scaling up, you'll get reliable service, expert craftsmanship, and the support you need to succeed. Don't just build better with PCBWay.com. Question number 2. What does a resonant antenna mean? A resonant antenna is one that naturally operates at a specific frequency without needing tuning. Sometimes these antennas will operate on harmonic matches to your fundamental or resonant frequency. For example, a 40-meter dipole will often work on the 15-meter band, or a 40-meter end-fed half wave will work on 40 meters, 20 meters, 15 meters, and 10 meters. This alignment is important because it minimizes power reflections and maximizes transmission efficiency, evident through a low standing wave ratio, or SWR. An SWR close to 1:1 means that nearly all of the transmitter power is delivered to the antenna. Resonance is particularly important for high performance and emergency communication, where efficiency and reliability are paramount. Tuning to resonance ensures that your equipment performs at its best. I wanted to include this diagram, picture, image, whatever you want to call it, and it's a snapshot off of one of my nano VNAs that shows the outcome of tuning an antenna that I recently did a video on. It was a vertical antenna. And you can see the yellow line depicting our SWR curve. You can see that it has a dip that goes down. The width of that dip is referred to as bandwidth, or Q. And then at the bottom of the dip would be your closest to resonant point. I have a marker on the 40-meter FT8 frequency, 7.074 megahertz. And you can see from the table above, I have an SWR match of 1 to 1.086, which is pretty good. Behind that, you'll see a green line depicted on a Smith chart. We use Smith charts to plot our SWR to understand if it has inductive or capacitive reactance. This is a little bit more of an advanced topic that we're not going to cover in this video. Question number 3. What is SWR and why is it important? SWR, standing wave ratio, is an important parameter in ham radio, measuring the efficiency of power transfer, not the efficiency of your antenna overall, between your transmitter and antenna. A well-matched system has an SWR near 1:1, which means minimal signal is reflected back to the radio. So when you have a higher SWR and you transmit a signal, if you have this SWR condition, some of that signal is reflected back to your radio. Now, depending upon your setup, what happens to that reflective wave may differ. I have videos detailing in depth what exactly SWR is and how this reflection works if you want to check those out. An SWR of 1.5:1 or lower is typically considered very good and safe for operation. Higher values may lead to reduced transmission range, distorted signals, and even potential damage to your transceiver, especially during prolonged high-power transmissions, like FT8 for example. Modern radios may include automatic protection, sometimes called foldback, that reduces your power output when SWR is too high. But it's best to design and tune your system for optimum SWR from the start. Question number 4. Do I need an antenna tuner? Antenna tuners, or impedance matching devices, are important tools for ensuring your transmitter can effectively deliver power to your antenna. especially when your antenna isn't resonant at your operating frequency. You'll particularly need one if you're using a multiband or non-resonant antenna, like an end-fed random wire. As impedance mismatches are common across different frequencies, this tuner makes the system appear properly matched to the transmitter, improving performance and protecting your equipment. Modern rigs may include internal tuners that are quick and convenient, but external tuners, particularly manual ones, offer broader tuning ranges and greater control. Evaluate your operating style and decide which solution fits best. Question number 5. What is a ground plane? A ground plane serves as a critical component for many antennas, especially verticals. It acts as a reflective or return path for RF current, enhancing the radiation pattern and efficiency of the antenna system. The absence of a proper ground plane can lead to increased ground loss and distorted radiation patterns, severely impacting performance. Ground planes can be created using buried radials, a metal roof, or elevated wire radials, depending upon your environment. Properly installed, a ground plane boosts current flow at the base of the antenna and enables more consistent radiation. It's a foundational design element in many effective ham radio antenna systems. Question number 6. What is a vertical antenna and when should I use one? Vertical antennas are a popular choice among hams due to their omnidirectional radiation pattern and relatively small footprint. They're especially useful for installations where horizontal space is limited. The primary strength of a vertical antenna lies in its low-angle radiation, which favors DX, or long-distance communications, particularly on HF bands like 40 and 80 meters. However, they typically require a good ground plane or radial system for maximum efficiency. These antennas are excellent for covering wide areas without the need for a rotator, making them ideal for general purpose or remote setups. For operators seeking simplicity and versatility, verticals are a smart option. Here's a picture that I threw in of a vertical antenna that I had installed in my backyard. And a couple things I want to note. At the base of the antenna, you see a transformer, and that's really not important to this conversation. Below the transformer, there's an orange arrow pointing at a choke. Vertical antennas are prone to common mode current, and you want to use a choke, or sometimes called a balun, to make sure that this common mode current is eliminated from your transmission line and doesn't make its way back into your ham shack and cause havoc. The blue arrow points to a radial plane. This was a quick deployment, so it's not the most ideal radial plane, but it's 4 wires running in opposite directions, creating that ground coverage that I spoke about earlier. Question 7. What is a balun and do I need one? And this is where it gets confusing because baluns are often called chokes and chokes are often called baluns. In either case, their role is the same. A balun, short for balanced to unbalanced, is a vital device when interfacing a balanced antenna like a dipole with an unbalanced coaxial feed line. It ensures the currents are evenly distributed and unwanted RF is minimized. Without a balun, common mode currents can flow on the coaxial shield, leading to interference, distorted radiation patterns, and RF feedback into the shack. Baluns act as filters, improving performance and safety. If you're using a dipole, off-center fed dipole, vertical antenna, or just about any antenna, a balun or a choke is not optional. It's essential for optimizing operation and clean signals. Coaxial cable length significantly affects signal performance, particularly on VHF and UHF frequencies, most commonly 2 meters and 70 centimeters. The longer the cable, the more signal is lost as heat to resistance and dielectric losses. A high-quality coax such as LMR 400 or RG213 helps reduce this loss. But even then, keeping the cable run as short as possible is the best practice. On HF bands, losses are less severe, but efficiency still benefits from shorter, direct runs. Now, one of the things that I'm going to mention is that for HF, I use RG8X. The reason I use RG8X, because it's an inexpensive cable, and I have long cable runs. I would have better efficiency with a higher quality coaxial cable, but I'm okay making that compromise, and you might be too. Where you really need to pay attention to losses in your cable, like I mentioned earlier, is in the higher frequencies like VHF and UHF. Always plan your station layout to minimize coaxial length. Use appropriate connectors and consider frequency range when choosing the most suitable cable type. Question number 9. Can I operate HF indoors with an antenna? Operating HF indoors is certainly possible, but comes with trade-offs. walls, siding, and other building materials significantly attenuate signals, and limited space restricts antenna options. Magnetic loop antennas or small loaded dipoles are popular choices for apartment dwellers and indoor operators. These offer compact size and decent performance, but they typically have narrow bandwidth and require careful tuning. Be aware of potential RF interference with nearby electronics and prioritize safety by monitoring exposure levels and grounding your equipment effectively. While outdoor antennas are preferable, indoor setups can still yield satisfying results with the right equipment and expectations. Question 10. What is a multiband antenna? A multiband antenna is engineered to operate efficiently across several amateur radio frequency bands. This is achieved by using traps, loading coils, or careful design geometries like a fan dipole or off-center fed dipole. These antennas simplify station setup by eliminating the need to switch antennas manually. End-fed and trap antennas are popular for portable and stealth operations, while fan dipoles provide full-size elements for each band. Despite the convenience, multiband antennas often involve compromises in bandwidth, radiation pattern, or efficiency. A tuner may still be needed to fine-tune SWR across the bands. Understanding these trade-offs helps in selecting the right configuration for your needs. Folks, and that's going to wrap up this video. I'd like to thank everybody for watching. If you have any questions, comments, suggestions, or recommendations, go ahead and post them below and I'll do my best to respond.